mark the start of the Native Omaha Days, which happens every other year in North Omaha.
The festival is a string of events all week long, and this year's started by focusing on local authors.
Our Bella Caracta shares how their work is being highlighted.
Fred Franklin may not be native, but he is an Omahan.
I've raised my kids here. My first home was actually here in North Omaha.
And exemplifies what Native Omaha Days hopes to do.
I'm honored to be able to kick off Native Omaha Week with this book signing.
To engage the community in history and culture that comes from North Omaha. A celebration that comes to town every other year, one that Franklin never misses. This year, Franklin kicked off the festival with his own book signing.
It was an intellectual curiosity.
A curiosity that he credits to the people who surrounded him.
All that's been enhanced as a consequence of the circle of friends and associates that I've had here in Omaha.
His book explores the Catholic Church's role in the idea of white supremacy, the long-standing effects and
suggestion as to what can be done to be able to get us past this race problem.
Exploring race is a part of the Great Plains Black History Museum, too, which is why the executive director is welcoming authors like Franklin for the festival.
Young folks get an opportunity to see authors that may look like them, and knowing that there may be an opportunity for them to then one day write a book.
In an age where answers are at the tip of their fingertips.
When people just do a quick search, they ask Siri, you have to dig a little bit deeper.
He hopes this can teach others to do the same, whatever and wherever that curiosity may take them. On your side in North Omaha, Bella Caracta, 6 News.
You can find the rest of the Native Omaha Days Festival schedule on our website, WOWT.com.